Hey everyone, just doing a sound check on Zoom. Let me know if you're hearing me. All right, folks, we're letting folks into the Zoom meeting, and just give me a few minutes and we'll be ready to go. That's funny, Jake. Hey folks, so we're just getting ready for WaveTech Training. Today we're actually going through the market grid, how to use it, how to combine it with entries and all types of things. So it's going to be a different presentation today. I have a lot to go over. And you folks are hearing me on Zoom, correct? I didn't hear anything from anyone.
Yeah, I am. I'm hearing you good.
Okay. Hey Grant, welcome. I was thinking about you the other day.
Hi, Bob. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
It'll be just a few minutes. We'll get started here, folks. We've got, I'm sure, some latecomers as always coming. So they're coming in slowly, right around time. So we'll get started within the next 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, folks, we are all here. Still a few people joining, so I'll continue to let some folks in. Good news is I'm seeing some new names on the Zoom meeting, which is always exciting. We bring in new users every day to the platform, and we're continuing to expand it. And I think that that this meeting today will be interesting in talking about setting up trades using Market Grid, but we're going to combine it with utilizing WaveTech as well, because this is the WaveTech meeting that we're doing today. So we will be answering questions. So if you're a new user with WaveTech, you're on Zoom, or if you're on YouTube, we're monitoring both chats so we can answer questions and see exactly what you have on your mind and what I can do to help, and have Jason on as well to pipe in and help me out with things from time to time. So I'm looking forward to today. And I just want to say something. This is interesting because part of the effort that it happened with getting the Market Grid out was a community. I haven't noticed if he's around or not, but it was a community effort, meaning that a member from the community reached out to me and we put together the part of the process. There's two key people involved in the getting the Market Grid out to you folks, which was a friend of mine going back to 1993 and did all the programming on all of the models and the indicators. Sam Tennis, he put together the platform to be able to monitor all of the grids and stuff, and we've got a lot of plans. So what I'm going to show you today is actually version 1, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what version 2, 3, and 4 are planned to look like. And version 2 will probably be in short order. Version 3 will be maybe a bit further down the road, but not a lot. So a lot of these things have already been being worked on, and so there's a process going on. And I know we put this out. I put it out on a number of videos and some emails and stuff that we sent out. But the plan is to, you folks give us symbols that you would like to see on the grid. I would tell you, I think it would be too many, but I think I can do up to 3,000. For the moment, it's going to be too many to put up in the current format until when I go through what the phases of everything's going to be on how this thing is going to roll out. It's been kind of pushing on a rope in the background here, and right in the 11th hour, I had a couple minor issues that came up, but they seem to we managed to get them fixed yesterday. I thought we'd be out Monday, so we ended up coming out on Tuesday. So that is that's kind of where we're at right now. But the plan is the following. So let me go through the 3 stages so you know what you're going to be getting, I guess, how this product is planning on rolling out. So a lot of folks know, you watch my YouTube videos, that's how I know most of you. And I always talk about the Market Grid, and in fact, I'm going to use the gold Market Grid on the weekly, gold and the Dower. Has been insanely accurate and really guided everything in the comments that I've made on the channel. So I'm going to tie this together, and my whole goal here, folks, is to get you more and more in tune, having more of the tools that I have in my arsenal, that it's part of yours. And we there's like something much bigger going on in the background, which is the ultimate goal to build a complete new platform that is going to really, I think, revolutionize a lot of how money's being managed out there. And I do mean managed, not speculated. And there will be speculative ideas, which a lot of the Market Grid stuff we're talking about, but how folks, individuals, are going to be able to manage their money going forward. And I can tell you, I'm in an effort to raise a substantial amount of capital to do this. and all of the efforts. And you folks, I just want to thank all of you that have subscribed, and know that I greatly appreciate it, and you're helping this effort out. And it's from my viewpoint, it's very exciting. Ultimately, it will be from yours. So let's go through phase one. So I've got on the screen here, I'm a portfolio expert.
Can I say something real quick about, I'm sorry. For Zoom, we're not seeing the screen. We're just seeing a graphic right now. Yeah. It's different than on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Let me check something. But I haven't really shown anything, but thanks for the heads up.
Okay, you're welcome.
Let me see if I can get that working. There's an advantage on being on YouTube. So, okay. You should be able to see something now, right, Jay?
Yeah, we're seeing Portfolio Expert now.
Okay.
The website, yes.
Yeah, so as you come in, those of you that subscribe, that's fine. We actually have a free access. You get this dashboard for free. You can sign up a free account, but you have to be a subscriber to WaveTech, and all the folks on Zoom are subscribers to WaveTech. And sorry, this is very annoying, not annoying, but distracting when things are folks are coming in yet. So but the point of what I'm doing here is trying to get all these tools out to you, so you guys can I'd say it every night, and it sounds kind of corny, but my goal is to really help you manage your portfolios and protect your wealth. Because if you don't protect the downside, you get in a lot of issues with you don't have any money to play. So capital preservation is always number one on my mind. So the goal is to roll out these tools little by little. We have plans of bringing out our professional tool to the network for everyone. And what's happening, this is interesting, because what's happening is this effort, what we're doing and bringing in the retail community, is actually doing exactly how it should be. It's lowering the access. It's giving more access, but lowering the cost of the access to our services and what we're doing. Because many of our services have been, we charge quite a bit of money. And our advisory firms do pay more, but they pay more because they actually redistribute our process to their customers. And sometimes in thousands of customers that they have, they're redistributing it. So they do pay a premium for the ability to do that. For individuals, that's why we have the cheaper pricing and those type of things that go on. But so the plan is to continue to roll this out. So you'll notice on the tabs here, the second tab over is Market Grid. And this is basic. It's all we're doing at the moment. What we've got ready is the ability to put the grid out and be able to display the numbers to you. And this is stage one. And the way that it works is the indexes, or anything with any kind of qualifier in the front, whether it's a dollar sign or @ sign, which these are futures, and I'm glad to put any of the futures in there. I don't have any of the Board of Trade stuff in there right now, but if you can request, if you're a user of the platform, you can submit some symbols, and we're asking you to submit it to info@kendallreport.com, so you can do that. But once you get below the indexes, everything is alphabetical order. So all the stocks are in alphabetical order from that standpoint. Okay. So this is version 1, which is you got to scroll. The next version 2 will have a search box. So you'll be able to put a symbol in, and it will take you to that symbol if it's in the database. And then once that's in there, what we're working on is phase 3, which will give you the ability to do a favorites. And I'm not sure since it's not developed yet, the plan will be you'll be able to put your favorite stocks that you want to see the market grid in, and there'll be some sort of tablature, some way to navigate through those favorite lists, and you can watch those on a regular basis and update them, take them out, all the stuff that you would expect that you can do. So that would be phase 2. But for right now, I believe there's 62 symbols in the that we're delivering, and some folks might be mad. I'm going to do some intermittent stuff with Twitter. I've been putting out futures numbers, so I won't starve those folks out right away. But ultimately, it's all going to be behind a firewall. I've been working on this project for multiple months, actually. So the goal is actually to provide these services and to be able to do these trainings and to do the things and spend the time with you folks that I do, so that it all makes sense for all of us. You guys are getting the value from the process, and we're able to spend our time in presenting all this stuff to go. But that's the basic plan. Now, as far as the timing goes of this, like I said, I think the search will be done fairly soon. I'm actually have somebody working on that right now. It's basically simple. There's a couple tags we have to put in the HTML, and it should be very easy to search, so it shouldn't be a problem. So that will happen. The phase, getting the favorites list out, that's basically the plan. And I actually forgot one other plan, which is ultimately is to have real-time charts and interactions, and this is, I guess we'll call it the final phase 5 will be interactions with the markets, and actually have like a meter that shows what percentage how close you're getting to R1, R2, and then it's going to check mark them and let you know in a map exactly where you are on a chart. So when you bring it up, you know exactly where things are. So, but that is that's the basic plan, and that's what I'm working down right now. But like I said, I'm glad to add symbols in. We do have some standards. Those of you that are WaveTech subscribers, then you folks that are, you know that when you submit a stock, matter of fact, Jason is the gatekeeper for the most part, and we've got some criteria we put together. So we don't want penny stocks and a bunch of junk in the database. Matter of fact, the database right now is kind of junked out, and we've got a project working out in the background right now to clean a lot of things out. There's a ton of mutual funds in I don't think anyone's using. There's a lot of things in the database that's just kind of cluttered things up, and we're working on a project to cleanse out and get rid of a lot of the junk that's in the database. It's stuff that's accumulated over 20 years of working with investment advisors, and they put their mutual funds and all that stuff in. So we are definitely we're definitely working on that. So be patient, including the sector mapping and some of the symbol mismatches and things of that sort. There is an effort going on, just so you know that's happening. So be patient with us. We revived this old product out of the archives to get it out there, but it's been very inspiring, as I said, working with everybody. So that's so far where we are on that project. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to dig into a couple things here, and we're going to start talking about the grid itself for a minute, because I think this is going to be a really powerful addition to what you're doing, especially for trade setups, and it will also help for entries. And I just wanted, since I went this far down into this rabbit hole, I do want to tell you just a little bit. I want to explain a little bit about why this grid exists. Okay, this grid goes back to around 1996 is when I actually developed this, and it was developed for my institutional clients. I used to run a service that I guess I'll back up just a step further. When I was on the brokerage side of the business, I was in institutional hedging and working with risk management with large banks and and mortgage companies hedging their pipelines and their risk in their portfolios. So that's kind of what I've been doing for most of my life from that standpoint. So these numbers were designed for, it was primarily just the daily numbers, and I carried it out to what I call the matrix, the daily, weekly, monthly. And the reason why, what happened was the daily was for my bank customers is they might be sell side, they might be looking to do a sell hedge or a buy hedge, and this was for the most part developed in treasury bonds and financial instruments, because I used to run a service called the Daily Fixed Income Quant Report, and all it did was bonds, spreads, and all my customers were banks and big proprietary trading rooms. And so what we did is we wanted to try to find the premium value that you could sell on any given day or buy on any day. So you start to look at these, this matrix and this grid as a way to position yourself. So let's take this, and I'll tie this all together into what you're doing when you're trading. So when you're making a trading decision, I don't care if you're using my models or not, but you're sitting here, and we'll set this up. Let me go down to, let's get to gold. This would be really good. And actually the E-minis last night printed the 63R1 overnight. Matter of fact, right before or at the London opening last night. And most of you know I'm up when London opens. My favorite time of the day. Actually, I can't seem to break the habit. But see, you know what? I must have went by it already. Hang on. There we go. There's gold. So a couple things that, and I'm going to talk about a trade. I'm going to show you these numbers, and then I'm going to bring up TradeStation, and we're going to look at how that gold trade set up and how I put together last night's video utilizing the grid to map this out. So back to the trading ideas. So if I'm going to put a trade on, I need to know a couple things, and I've always taught people about setups where you have an entry point, you have the risk that you're looking to, how much risk you're willing to take on that, and then you have a target. Well, we can generate, because we have daily, weekly, and monthly, we can start to target much larger patterns. We can use the daily as a micro view, and then we can go to the next level of, we can move up to the next level looking at weekly and actually looking at monthly for targets. And as you folks have been watching my YouTube channel, you'll know that just looking at, you know, the NASDAQ and the S&P and the primary markets I cover every day, you see these numbers come in play across the matrix over in a given month. And that is certainly definitely what we're seeing right now, and the gold market is really key. So I think gold, we'll go over to the market here in a minute, and I'm going to put this on a separate page, but I'll talk about these numbers. But if we look at R3 was 1902, RX, the extreme was 1907, and I don't think we ever came close to printing S1, but that's not important. But the other thing I want to point out on this, and then we're going to go to the chart. So let's say I've been talking about the Dow declining on the channel for the last couple of days, and I used the grid to determine where it was likely to go within the grid, looking at the PPMs, and that is the next thing that is coming to an offer, is there is going to be an offering on TradeStation. Hopefully that's going to be done literally, or I'm hoping that by on or before the 10th of October, I'm hoping to have that completed. But the idea is, if you understand the direction of the market, then you can start to determine whether S1 or R2, how this is going to set up in the range. So you see me do this every night, and it's based upon the configuration of the chart. So if you're I don't care how you're approaching the markets, and you're using the channel, you're using this technique to determine when to buy or sell, what you want to do is actually say, I want to buy this market. Where's the best place? This goes back to my institutional clients. I need to buy today. Bob, where's the best place to buy? So we started going through some math and figuring out what the daily, so what this thing does, it calculates what the daily ranges are, right? The average range over a combination of a 3 and 5 day period. It figures out a range, and it takes from yesterday's close, and it has a unique Fibonacci sequence that projects prices from above the yesterday's close and below it, and then that's where it comes up with these numbers at. And I used to do it a different way, but this using these Fibonacci relationships, it works really good. And then as you look through the grid, we'll do this on gold here, just so stay with me. So I'm going to try to take you through the absolute thought process and how to have an idea, use the grid on how to set the idea, and then ultimately how to target based on different expectations. And it's a lot easier when you have this thing in a chart format, and that is all the way on version 5, where there'll actually be charts that you'll be able to see, and there'll be history of all the grids going back, because I have all the data. I can generate data for 20 years on the grid. That's not a problem. I have all those calculations. It's simple to put together, and our plan is to build a database that will house this thing, and ultimately this platform will be doing its own calculations just for this. It won't be mapped out from another piece of software. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. But when we look at gold, if we were looking at a place to buy, and this is just for today. So the way this grid is going to work, you're only going to have the new updates. You're not going to be able to, I would suggest, if you want to save this, I would highlight, copy, and paste this into a Word doc or something if you want to keep the values on a daily basis until we start to get the historical values there. But the other thing that I plan on is having a little setting what day, so you can go back in the data once the history's there and you can see it on any given day. So these are pretty simple database issues, but we have to get it built to be able to do that. So until we get that built, it's you're going to have to if you're using this to trade, and try to get everything that together so you can start to map out your trades better and give much better techniques. For instance, I was able to get some shorts off, 3 ticks off the high on the futures last night when they were printing R1. And the only way you could have done that, I wouldn't have had any reason to even think about trying to sell R1 if I didn't know R1 existed, okay? And I had the confidence of seeing these numbers work, that I knew there was some viability in these numbers. And many of the folks I know, it's very popular on Twitter and now on our Facebook channel. And in fact, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, we're still working on putting a lot of puzzle stuff together. I spent most of the weekend and into yesterday afternoon getting this stuff working right. We had some issues. So just know there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, and once it rolls out, it's there. And I've had this theory for many years. If you can't automate it, we don't do it. And we have done some things in the past that there's a man in the middle, but most of the process is automated. So right now we're half robot and half human, and we'll get to that next level as we roll out the new database and the history and charting package that will go with this. One of the things, I had a brilliant thought, and I'm going to work on this too, is what if you could just click on one of these symbols, and if it's in WaveTech, it just takes you straight to WaveTech and opens it up. I think I figured out. I haven't tested it. This morning I was thinking, I go, man, we can do that. I'll figure out how to get that link. So you have to have, if you have a subscription and you're logged into WaveTech, it'll just take you right to the research on WaveTech there. I'm pretty sure I can do this. I figured it out this morning. I will test it later today. But if it works, it'll be magic. If not, we'll figure out how to make it work. So but anyway, continuing to go back to this, we're going to go back to gold. I moved the chart off and now I've lost it. Hang on. Where's it at? There it is. I don't know why I'm spinning by it. So let's go back to commentary a couple of days ago. And I said, if the dollar declines, then we're going to see gold rally up to around 1900. And last night I talked about the potential going to 1922. I'm going to show you where I got all those numbers right now. I'm going to draw them on the screen. Thanks, Soup. I appreciate that super chat. Okay. So if we go here, what you're going to see is this. So last night, R3 was 1902. 1903 was a weekly R2, and then the number I mentioned was 1922 on gold last night. And I said the target range would be between here, which is R3, R2 on the weekly basis. So there's I'm going to try to tie the analysis I did last night, so you can go back and watch that video, watch last night's video, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I said, if the dollar declines, which I thought it would, and it has, gold's going to catch a bid, and we're going to trade up to somewhere between, I believe it was 1907 to 1922, or maybe it was these numbers here. Excuse me, 1903 to 1922, which is R2, R3 on the weekly chart. And that pattern just looks so obvious, and it's easier when you can see it graphical. So you folks have charts. I think I mentioned, I didn't see Sam on the feed today, but last week Sam Tennis was on, and we are working on getting some things into TradingView. So it's a work in process. And I think AJ, you're on here, you offered to help us out. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I'm going to reach out to you. I asked Jay to give me your phone number, so I would like to talk to you when we get a chance.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so yeah, so what I was, oh, I'm so sorry. I hate that bell. That's supposed to go off an hour ago, right? Anyway, yeah, so as I mentioned, one of the members in our community actually helped us put part of this project together. It put a pretty cool server that converts things and does some pretty interesting magic. So I don't think Brett's around, but he was a great help. I've been working with him on this project for probably 6 weeks or so. But anyway, but this gold setup is interesting because all of it was working within the grid. And I'm going to go to TradeStation so we can see exactly how it looks on there, but even taking off the grid itself to try to figure out, if you don't have the grid mapped out, maybe it's a little more archaic, but these numbers are really good. And I know that a lot of you folks see this stuff on the channel, and even just following the E-minis and the S&P has also been I think it's built a lot of confidence. We've seen some folks tweet us and email us and tell us about some of the monies they made off the grid. I know I've talked to a number of folks that have absolutely, some of you have done really well trading these numbers. So now you got the Tesla's on here, Apple's on here. There's some crazy numbers that all this stuff works really well. So you get the setup here. Now let's go over to TradeStation. So we get over to TradeStation here, and let's put up gold. Gold had a high of 1904.80, so we traded in above that 1903 number that I was just talking about. I'm going to slide this to the other page just just so I can reference this. Okay, so as we look at we look at the grid itself. This is the daily, and gotta do one more thing. We'll bring the grid up on the screen, and it's helpful that it's visual here. You can see we traded up to R3 was 1905.8. We're 1904.8, so right within a buck of R3, and that I talked about this last night, hitting there, and here we are. Meanwhile, when we look at the PPMs, they're still negative. There's still downward pressure. 10-day moving average is 1909, and if you look at PPMs, which I put on, this is an easy market for me to cover and talk about. You know that the 10-day moving average is declining at a rate of change that suggests there's only about a 30 to 40% probability that will move above that 1909 level. So my suggestion last night was, and we're going to go to the Dow just to break down this whole analysis, and when we look at how the grid's set up around the configuration of the markets, it gives you an incredible opportunity to understand exactly what the markets are doing. And for one reason or another, I've been listening to a lot of symphony and classical music lately, and it's just like it sometimes, and I'm in one of those moments in time, I'll jinx it by saying this, but I get into where the markets are literally moving right. They're doing exactly everything they're supposed to be doing. So gold's doing that, the Dow's doing that, the S&P's doing it. All these markets are in these configurations that they line, all the stars, so to speak, line up at that time. And the reason why I'm putting this stuff out to you folks is you'll figure this matrix out and how to use it, and it will empower you to really make some great swing trades and scalp trades. And it also will help you when we go here in a minute. We're going to set up some trades and look at trades that set up from the market grid itself, and using market grid maybe to enhance an entry on a signal from WaveTech. So that's another way to approach the markets from that standpoint. And it's it's amazing, because most of you folks that are taking the time to spend hour and a half with me, and I know a lot of you will be on a live stream tomorrow. We're going to do 2.5 hours of our normal weekly live stream on Wednesday, like we always do. And I spend a lot of time because we actually get a lot of customers from doing this, and we feel like we know we're serving the folks that are really interested, and you folks are investing the time. So that's why this is why I'm doing this. I've always been a mentor of types, and I know I see Jake on the YouTube channel, and I've done a lot of mentoring with him. He knows that, and I enjoy every second of it. And we have some really good debates from time to time. It's always fun. Okay, but these patterns that set up right now, you can see how we're trading up at the top of the grid. You'll also see, just looking at it visually, is that very seldom do the markets trade outside of these grids. They do it on those big expansive days where volatility blows up, and then they come right back into the grid again, and they stay within these parameters. I had some troll on Twitter tell me, oh, anybody could do this and all that. And I just said, hey, do it. I spent a lot of years doing this manually, and now I have an automated process. Whether anyone can do it or not, the numbers are here, and their ability to use them to trade are really big, because they give you guidance. There's something that a human needs when they're making decisions, and you need to be able to visualize and be able to see this stuff before it happens. It's like I always say, it's the athlete or the quarterback that sees he throws the ball before the receiver breaks, and he knows where he's going to be. It's that kind of stuff. you get from having a map to how to trade. And I see so many things out there on the internet, and that are just kind of bogus, trend lines and wedges and all that stuff. And I'm speaking one of the speakers at a national conference. Of course, everything is virtual right now. In a few weeks for the National Association of Active Managers, and I've got a very interesting talk planned to them, because it's not going to be like anything anyone else talks about, because I come from a much different place than where most people have from my technical background, but because I've always operated within a map of some sort. And so the point of having the grid, the point of looking at the markets like this are significant. So when we go over to the weekly chart, we start to look at the weekly. One of the key elements that I talked about last week is that if I'm right and the dollar declines, the gold will catch a bid, and that 21-week moving average is going to be the key level to play off. Now we printed down to, I believe, 51. There it is, low 1851 on gold, but we bounced off of that level. But if we look, the low was 1851, S1 was 1848. So basically we got an S1 hit. So we knew that there was there were good probabilities that S1 is going to be the low, and I talked about this on, I believe, Monday's video, and probably mentioned it last night. But I mentioned that we're probably going to see an S1 R2 for gold this week, which was basically what we've done so far. We printed a little bit above that, and the mention last night is now we could go to R3. So when you go into Portfolio Expert and you hit the market grid, you'll see all these numbers in that matrix. Now there's no numbers on the matrix on a monthly right now that matter, and in fact we're 2 days we're 2 days from the end of the month. So that's going to get a whole new grid coming out once that happens. There'll be an update for the monthly and all that stuff on the matrix. And anyway, so the point is we want to trade within this. So now we see if we look at, so I try to do clustering of ideas. So I have a PPM 2, which is showing over here a point. We have a PPM 2, which is a plus 0.38, which tells me that 21 period moving average is moving up at a high enough angle of attack that the market's likely hold that value. I've got an S1 1848 just below that. We print 51, and that was the play off on the gold, was to play off that S1. But then it was easy to figure out that we're going to trade back into the grid, and we're seeing this on a weekly chart. So the grid was able to drive us back to an R2, at least an R2, maybe an R3. I still think R3 is a little optimistic, and I'm going to go through as much of this detail I can, because I want to connect the dots here, in that you understand how this thing can be used, and you can bring this into all the stocks we have. If you submit it, tell us what stocks you want to follow. We'll do our best to get those in as things go on. So yeah, I see there's a question. Jake's asking inventory when WaveTech printed back, it ripped the, what is that, 229? What are you talking about? Silver? Yeah, silver. Yeah, I don't know. We can look at that, but I'm gonna stay with these trades for a moment. We can take a look. If I remember right, it was pretty accurate in there. But the point here is that the configuration set up that it's going to stay within the grid on a weekly, so we have some confines. We have a 21-day moving average that is rising, which tells us there is an uptrend, 0.38, anything over 0.25. And what that ends up doing is giving us the confidence which to put the trade on that we could have traded. There's a $50 trade in gold roughly. And that's what I was talking about. And now I think that somewhere between where it is right now, there's going to be a reversal, and there's going to be a short trade, probably going to go back. And I mentioned this in last night's video, maybe end up trading back into the 1880, maybe 1860 level on gold. It's not, this is just for scalping because there are no trends in this. There's an underlying trend on a weekly, but there are no current trends that are really playable from even an intermediate standpoint right now. Both of all of these markets, gold and silver, are still gyrating in this range. Of course, silver is way more volatile in the way it trades. So let's okay. So I went through quite a bit of detail, and let's do this. Since we do have a fair amount of folks on the Zoom meeting, does anyone have any questions of what I just went through? Because that might actually clarify in case I think I did a good job and didn't.
Hi, Bob. This is Michael Urenson.
Yeah.
I have a couple organizational questions.
Okay.
So, are you planning to do the capability of downloading it to Excel or just cut and paste for now? Because I mean, I wasn't able to access it today for some reason, and I'm working with Jason on that to figure out what's the problem. But he sent me an Excel sheet, and I think it's very very nice to actually.
Yeah, yeah, my
comments online.
Yeah, and that works. My biggest concern right now is that it ends up on Reddit for everybody on the planet. That somebody starts posting all the spreadsheets out and scalping them. I don't know. Maybe I'm being
because I see the people who were able to access, they write in comments that if you cut and paste, it works out nice. So it could be done manually.
It can. I think if you highlight this, if I brought up Excel, you could actually you should be able to copy that and put it right into Excel.
Yeah,
I believe.
I saw it on the timeline there that people comment like in Zoom.
Yeah. You know, I just trying to figure out one of the issues when you have proprietary work and stuff, and is trying to keep your work from being compromised. And I really want it for the folks. It's deserving of the folks that are paying for it. That's just the way it goes. And so yeah. So I see somebody said Tesla's range was crazy. Yeah, we'll take a look at Tesla as well. And but yeah, so you guys get the idea and concept of the map. So Michael, I'll look into. I think that's probably going to be the solution, and we're looking to an export. That's
okay.
That probably no, like I said, the map is okay. I got it out there. Okay. 2 is can I search it and find it, and then 3 will be maybe the favorites, or maybe even an export.
Because I mean it already simplifies the life a lot, because I like until now I show it to you, and I have to basically take it from your video and bring it to the Excel spreadsheet. Right?
Yeah. So I know you're looking at my mountain right now, but this is the Excel sheet it comes from. Mm-hmm. It actually already exists. Yeah. So that's actually, it gets exported to this file format and then imported to turn into HTML and stack the columns right and all that kind of stuff.
Just think I just found, like, over the past month I've been doing it, I just found it very useful to compare the numbers from day to day and from week to week and from month to month. So I'm kind of like tracking them on the daily basis and accumulating those numbers.
Yeah. And this will be an offering that we'll do on the on the
TradeStation.
Yeah, on TradeStation, and then you'll have exactly what you see here. And of course, if I go here on TradeStation, I can do show all, and now you see all the data. Okay. It's all there, right? So you can see RXT, you can scan over, so you get all of it.
Yeah. Can you export it from TradeStation or not?
Yeah,
Is there like,
of course. Yeah. Yeah. I think you can just go, you go right here and put it right into, it looks like, let's see, are they only giving you? Yeah, they're giving you the text, so you're still going to have to convert it. You know, so.
One more question I have is how often it updates and what time it will update?
That's a good question. I'm still figuring that out, but I suspect I have to wait for all the numbers on the markets to center or reset on TradeStation, because it is a TradeStation process that I'm using right now to generate the numbers. And like I said, the goal is to actually bring in the data like we do on the software and actually have the database do all the calculations there and not depend on the third party, which I'm running all these calcs in TradeStation and then exporting them. And we actually have, I suspect when we get the TradeStation App Store thing going, that will actually give the ability for folks to have that TSW, and it's a radar screen, so you can run it on literally thousands of symbols. In fact, I'm having let me just show everybody what's happening. And this, for ultimately for the TradeStation, this will be let's see here. Okay, let's do open workspace. Let's do this one here. This is actually what it has in it. Is a module you'll see here in a second. Down below here, this thing actually on the right hand side actually exports this to Excel.
Yeah, that looks great. I remember you showed it to me before.
Yeah, that's right.
On top of that, it would make my life so much easier.
Yeah, and I want to do that. So I'm just trying to figure out how to get that out there.
Well, and do I understand it correctly that the weekly they would only update once a week? So
Yeah.
they're not going to change inside of the week.
Correct.
Or the month, they're going to update only once a month.
Yep. That is correct.
All right. And one last question for me. There is a symbol $RUT. I'm unable to access it in TradeStation. What is this? I'm trying to understand.
What is it? Dollar what?
$RUT.
Oh, that's the Russell.
Okay, so I probably don't have a data feed.
Yeah, you might not have signed up for that data. Yeah, so this is the real time. This is actually a real time scan of all these markets, and you'll notice in this alert column, it actually tells me in the alerts what's been hit. It'll tell you R1, low, S2. It actually has all those alerts. So ultimately, that's exactly what we'll have in the system, that you'll be able to get these alerts, and we're looking at potential text messaging, different delivery mechanisms, and yeah, so that's one of the things that is out there now. So you can actually see exactly how things are coming in out of this stuff. So this is actually showing real time aftermarket quotes on some of these symbols and stuff like that. So and the only problem we're having right now is I'm closing this out because it keeps having a memory error. That's one of the things that we're struggling with that particular page right now. So so anyway, but let's go ahead. Let's do this, since we spent a fair amount of time going through gold. Let's go ahead, and I will bring up. We'll go back and let's find Tesla. Let's see what that was. Somebody brought that up. Let's look at a quick view. Then I want to go to questions on WaveTech and all that, because we've spent a better part of an hour here going through this. But I think it's useful here. So we get down to now. Here's Tesla. So the ranges. Well, wish I could. Let me see if I can. See if this will squeeze down. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we'll put it up here. Just one second. I'll pull it over to the side. let's put up Tesla. Just look at Tesla's range here right now. And this is weekly that we have on right now. But let's go to daily. Let's just see what kind of crazy ranges we had on Tesla today. And I've done something to my why is it not showing anything? Not showing my values. There it is. What's happening is I'm not able to turn it off just so I see today's value. Not showing me any of the values. I don't know why it's doing that. I've never seen that. Oh boy. Nothing with a live show. So I'm going to go back to so it only is showing me horizontal, which is very frustrating, but see if we can get across here, at least see the numbers. So the range today was see, I can't see it in this format. The range today was 405.59 to 393. Is that the right range? No. What the heck day am I on? See it. Michael, do you know how to get out of that? You're a TradeStation user. When I go off of show all, let me just try to bring it back up from scratch. Yeah, it won't show me any of the values. That's gonna.
Yeah, because I'm not using this part of the data window since I don't have all this proprietary tools you have, so there's nothing for me.
Yeah, this is really weird. This might be. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This is all I can see here. But 405. So this was. Here's today, 29, 416. I'm going to have to write these numbers down, folks. I don't know why the platform won't show me just today's like it was a minute ago.
You could try to restart it, huh?
Yeah, but I don't want to go through that pain. That's too painful. That's too painful. And TradeStation has some quirks. It holds things in values. But let's just go here. 412 to 375 was the high-low. So let's go and over and look at the grid. And we'll look at, see if there's any matches here. So R1 was 431, S1 409, see boy, that is a wild range. STX was 393, I think I have the right day. So we went below STX and we didn't even get to R1 on this range today. Boy, oh boy. I'm just trying to get this to work, folks. Oh, there's the problem right there. Wait, no. Values. Yeah, that's weird. Won't show any of the values. That's very strange. Anyway, all right. Well, we're gonna have to fly blindfold. I can get them off here, but they're really hard to see. High 428, R3. Yeah, this is not gonna work. This is bad. I'm not able to get. I can't get the numbers to work. So let's open up to some questions on the WaveTech platform. I know there's a fair amount of new users out here, so I want to address any questions you folks have out there. Yes, somebody sent. Let me try one thing. I've never seen this. I've used this platform for 30 years, believe it or not.
Bob, one quick question about the market grid before you leave that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my computer bombed out on me, so I missed about 15 or 20 minutes of the presentation. You may have answered this.
I just
Why did you select what's in the market grid? What's that selected from?
Random.
Okay.
So that's why I took, actually I built a portfolio on one of our shows a number of weeks ago called Option 23. Those are most of the top option stocks, but I'm willing to take anything out, add them in. It's obviously got some of the ones that are important. That's why we're reaching out to you folks. Tell us what you'd like to see in there. So if you have some of your favorite stocks, or I don't care if they're ETFs, whatever they are, if you're trading SPY or any of that stuff, I'm not sure even SPY made it in there, but I'm glad to put anything in. And it'll just be how cumbersome it gets if that file gets too big. I don't think there's any limitations, but you'll be scrolling around trying to find stuff until we get that search function in there. But once that's done, then you'll do it. And I'm going to release a list of all of the put a list out of what's in there. But yeah, so it was, we'll say it's random, just that it's stocks that we usually cover on the live stream and those type of things. And I think I've got all the fangs in there and that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so feel free to add. So, yeah, so we haven't spent a lot of time on WaveTech itself. I did want to get a lot of information out on the grid, and I did figure out where the values are now, by the way. So it's all right there. What had happened is somehow it had got scrolled down. I didn't see the scroll bar. So anyway, so we can go back to Tesla and look at these high lows now. So I can do that. So that was kind of awkward. So we've got a high of 428, 427.35 was R1. So that's pretty close hit. S1, 415, 408. So we basically did an S1 on a daily to R1. I'm sorry, in between S1 and 2 here. So we printed 1160, so we went just below that, right in that range, and then the high was fairly useful there at 427, and it looks like if we bring up the like a 5-minute chart, that it printed that high mid-session and then faded off. So it looks like a pretty good sell against the R1 number there, as we're looking up there. Now this graphic I have here right now, this is the the thing about using TradeStation. If you use this, you can actually have the market grid on any increment of bars. So it could be this is actually the expectation for the last 5-minute bars there. So high low 19, 17, 66, 17. Yeah. So I mean, it will generate values for any bar, any increment. So we'll go back to daily. Let's look at the weekly on Tesla. So if pretty narrow range so far. I know that compared to last week, we had this monster range, and so if we look at the grid for this week, 419 is S1, the low 351. 368. So we basically did an STX. Is that right? That's not right. Hang on. There we go. So we had a low of 411, and so we haven't even gotten to S1 there at 386. R1 427. We basically printed R1 on a weekly. It was interesting. If we go back to the daily, there was an R1 on the R1 on the daily today was the same as R1 weekly, and the daily numbers move around because the bars are going up and down, and it's calculating off the last close and how it's determining these values. And like I said, I would do my most of these numbers will be out Yeah, I think somebody made, GM, you made a comment on the YouTube channel about lost in direction. I think that's the problem. There is no direction right now. But if there is one, it's probably down on a very short-term basis, probably looking to move down toward these numbers down at 387. Let's go back to the weekly here real quick. Yeah, weekly's got, and this is something, you know, I talked about it in the gold, is that we had this big 21 week moving average under gold, and this is exactly what's happened here, where if you notice the 10 period moving average, 10 week moving average is 381.91 and S1 is 386.71. So if you saw Tesla anywhere near that, that's a screaming buy right there. You can buy that blindfolded off of that number. And so if you did see anything close to that number, that's probably going to be a level you're going to be able to bounce. The Tesla's still in an uptrend, and it's in this broad range. And we see this type of volatility. There's a video on the channel that discusses, it will discuss the difference between Bollinger Bands and the market grid and how they're calculated. And these are calculated off volatility ranges, look back volatility ranges, than Fibonacci, where Bollinger Bands are standard deviation. The math behind that is standard deviation. So you get those bubbles. I call them bubbles on the Bollinger Bands. I have never figured out how to use those. I know a lot of people use them. I actually know John, and I've never spent any time with them. John and I are similar in that we developed our own processes, and you don't see any typical relative strength MSAD or any of those indicators on any of my work. I've been doing the same thing for a very long time, longer than I like to admit sometimes. But yeah, so the setup for Tesla after the last 3 weeks of range is a monster range, 319 to 494. So maybe S1, that's probably your bottom end, and we've seen an R1, so maybe S1, R1. If anything, like I said, there's probably some more downside on Tesla, and it probably goes in line with what I talked about on the channel last night when we're looking at S&P, looking at that 2-day decline that I set up last night, and we'll see what kind of numbers, if we started to fill the gap a little bit on the cash on the S&P, but Tesla is likely to drift along toward this red line, which is the 10-week moving average, is going to be basically a magnet. It's going to pull it to that, and if you get there, it's going to be an opportunity. So the way that you would trade this, since now those of you have the grid, let's tie that together. That's actually an interesting conversation to have here. So let me bring this back on over here. Let me squeeze it down just a little bit. So if we start to look at the ranges on Tesla, if we start to look at the range here and we look at that 427 and then 386, that's that range is there. What you want to watch for and how to trade Tesla over the next couple of days is look at the market grid and look at where the prints are likely to be, what the bottom S2, S3 numbers are. And I get a lot of suggestions from the channel itself, and people say, boy, you should cover Apple and Tesla. You'd get a lot of new subscribers. I'm really hesitant to start doing individual stocks. The list will never end, and it's just one of the things that I know you folks get to watch the videos just to do 4 markets, and the opening commentary is about 3 hours of work. So it's a fair amount of effort, and that encompasses the research and the mapping and working on this stuff. I always show you guys. I know you probably can't see it, but this is my worksheet from last night. So I do a worksheet. I work up all the markets that I follow, do all the key support and setups and everything. So I do that, then I do the opening commentary, and then I do the videos and cover that. I wish there was a way to automate all of that, which it is basically automated because that's what the software is doing. It's going to be, that's one of the things I see a comment, and this is, please don't take this, I'm not trolling your comment, okay? But this whole symmetric triangle thing, maybe so, I don't know. You know, that I just don't like trend lines, and all I can tell you is that 10 period moving average is going to hold. You got a 3.68. There's less than a 10% probability on that number, and the problem I have with, you know, trend lines and those kind of things is they tend to tunnel vision where you think things can go, and I'm just not a fan. I gave up on trend lines about 1981, so you know, probably 82 to be realistic. But I was in the early years of my development from a technician, I was a pure point and figure guy. I was on Chicago Board of Trade in 1979, and the guy that walked and trained me on the floor taught me 1x3 point and figure. That's how I thought the world existed. So that's certainly one of those things that I have been that's one of the things I've been doing for a long time, and I gave up point and figure charts. And Jay could tell you I had a chart that was about 9 feet long in my office that was point and figure chart of the bond market, and I lost it somehow.
Yeah, very big chart. That was a long time. I helped you a lot on that over the weekends and a long time.
Yeah, that was depressing. I lost that in one of our moves, and I'm not sure which one. I think it was the Lake Tahoe move. I think that was an interesting move for me. But anyway, so but yeah, this grid can be really useful. And those of you that have, if you're building portfolios, like I said, submit info@Kendall report. Give us your symbols. We'll do our best to get them in there. There's a man in the middle, so I've asked Jay, I've tasked him to keep track of these symbols, and we're going to build a list, and then all I have to do is import that list and update them, and then we'll find a way. It may be the Facebook channel, maybe you know, somewhere to go, hey, we've added these following symbols. There's nowhere that we have right now to put some things out, but we've added these symbols to the market grid and all that, so you'll know that's there, because once it gets so big, you're going to be scrolling down that list looking for things. So anyone else? Scott, I see your mic's off. Do you have a question?
I've actually been helping answer some of those questions, but he did have a good question, but it's kind of lengthy. I was trying to get him to get on there and actively ask you. I'm trying to look for the question right now.
Hi, Bob. Richie here from Berlin.
Hey, how you doing, Richie?
Good. Thanks for the grid. It's awesome. Just wanted to point out, actually, it's really easy just to do a word search in the server and pick out your symbol.
Yeah.
When you don't have to scroll too much, that's pretty convenient. So
that's true. What is it, F3 or something?
That's
on the browser, right?
F
something, F4, F3.
Yeah, I got a PC, so.
Yeah, I am too. So I actually have a Mac, but it doesn't do much.
Yeah, this is really cool surprise. Even though he said it was coming like forever, but it's just there now, and it's really clean. It's great work.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. It's going to bring in a lot of value to you folks, especially like if you want to try to enhance the entries off of a portfolio and you have the daily grid to look at. It's going to be really cool to go, hey, I think I can buy S1 or S2 today, right? And you can enhance some of those returns off. And what WaveTech is going to do, it's going to just buy the open, doesn't care what it is, fill it, be done, go on, and that's okay. But there is a way by having this market grid, and of course, you have to have it on a symbol. And the ultimate goal is to take our entire database and just build it in as a process on the servers and in the software. And you just put a symbol in, put a market grid, and make a watch list or a favorites list, whatever you want to call it. That's the ultimate plan to get to that point.
Nice. Stay tuned, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we're working with some folks to do something. So I can't say a lot, but we're working on a potential listing in your country. But I can't say much. I have to be careful. But we'll see if that happens. So I don't know what I'm going to be able to say when that happens. But we're trying to put some things. I have a very, very long-term close friend of mine in Switzerland who's lining up a lot of stuff. So.
Okay. Well, so far so good, and it's a good journey. And I got my dad on board now, so. It's just a fun thing. He's in Ireland and I'm in Berlin, and we're just swapping notes, and I pass on some of your commentary.
Yeah, it didn't sound like you had a German accent.
No. Not English either.
Not English either. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, I'll clear the line. Cheers.
All right, thanks.
Guys.
Yep.
Bob, I was able to find Scott's question. It was regarding the gold chart when you had that grid up. And it was about how do we ID a reversal pattern? Is it only when the ppm2 drops below 0.25?
No, that's actually really good. And I said I'd do the Dow. I don't know if you guys want to keep doing along this line. I'm glad to go down that trail. I have no problem. I just would say if you do have an issue, the point of these calls, I wanted to go through the grid today to show what it can do. But if you have a question and you're using software, don't be frustrated. This opportunity to talk to Jay or myself and get your answers. So make sure you speak up, and we get that part done as well. Because if you're struggling with anything, I mean, that's our goal. Like I said, my primary goal in life is to be able to help you folks manage your money and not speculate your money, but manage it. And that's the point of putting this tool out and being able to do the things that we do. So so we were on gold, correct? So how do we figure out? It's a good question. If gold's printing up here at 1903, it's going to reopen here shortly. And how do we figure out if there's going to be a reversal, or how do we play a reversal? And I mentioned when I was really frustrated. I'm trying to edit the video last night, trying to get it out the door, because when London opened, they started just hammering the futures on the S&P last night right off of the London opening. And I was frustrated because I already told you guys what was going to happen. I couldn't get the video out ahead of the opening last night, and I had everything. I could see what was going on. We printed R1, and the way it was acting and looking set up on the charts was just looked pretty negative. So R1 was definitely the high last night on the futures. But on the gold, a couple of things you can do to figure this out, and I would do it this way. Scott, I just have one question. Do you have intraday chart capabilities? Okay.
I don't know if he's able to reply.
Yeah, he may not.
Sure
I see his mic is on, but
he did type in the message. He said yes.
Okay. Yeah. So here's a couple ideas. So we could flip this chart over here, and we go to maybe a 60-minute graph. And this is interesting. Now I have a 200-hour moving average. I use the 200, and you'll see quite a divergence from here. But we're hovering right along this line. We want to look for any kind of major reversal pattern off the hourly, and we actually want to use it and coincide it with a maybe a market grid number that we'll get from today when it comes up. Like right now, we still have, this is 60-minute, but when the daily market grid updates tonight should have some numbers to shoot off of as an extreme. And you want to watch, you can do it two ways. You can sell it off, just anticipate the move and sell it off a grid number with a stop over 22 or something like that. And then you look at the grid to see what it's going to be. I don't have it available right now, so I really can't set it up very well. All I've got right now is, let me go to the daily. I don't think it's spit out yet. Let me just look at something. Oh, we actually do have the grid for tomorrow. So here we go. So this is actually perfect. So the yesterday's grid, R3 1905, RXT 1913. The high that we saw was 1904. And now the grid for tomorrow is here. R1 1910, 1917, 1925. So R3 is 1925. And I'm just looking over here, trying to see if the Dow is flat right now. It's not moving much, but so if the Dow were to sell off just a touch more, which I think there's a possibility, then we could print up into that R2, R3, and I'd look for a reversal. You can play off that. So R3 on the daily for tonight when the session opens will be the 1925. If you recall, on the weekly we had a 1922 as an R2 number. That will be substantial resistance at that level. So the concept is here though is to go over and take a look at the Dow, and this is what ties it all together. Because really where I found the gold idea was because of the Dow. And if you recall, and I mentioned this several times, if we go to the weekly grid, we got to close above the RTX number on Friday at 9406, closed with 9461. That told us 2 weeks down on 2 weeks sideways to down, and typically, as I said, we'll move down toward the bottom of the grid after one of those events. And the bottom of the grid right now, 9382 is the low so far, 9398, so we're through S2. We're working on an S3 number. So if we did get, you're going to have to, on this gold trade, it's about the Dow. In fact, just about everything that's going on right now, the Dow is kind of driving a lot of cash flow into markets right now. So 93.65, if you print down to 65 on this, then that would probably give you a little uptick on the gold. Print it, if we go back to the gold chart here, then in the grid you're going to have, this is weekly, hang on the grid, then for tonight you're going to have that 1909, maybe 1917 to play off of, and you're probably going to get a spike into those numbers, and then you watch for a reversal, maybe an hourly or a 15-minute graph, and you can play it and then set your stops up or set your trade off of that. And the idea would be that we trade back, ultimately back towards at least S2 and move back toward that 1860 number I put out on the channel. And I'm covering gold every night right now. I'm just sticking to the staple that I have out there right now, which is S&P, NASDAQ, and then we doing a Dow and gold. And I kind of, unless something pops out that I need to look at, then I will continue to stick with those to stick with those numbers on the nightly videos. And of course tomorrow we've got live stream, so we'll have an opportunity to go through and do quite a bit of detail on any of the markets that we're watching. But so the setup for looking for a reversal in gold, let me back up. So I go back to Monday's video, and I said, hey, there's probably going to be a bounce. Looks like because of the RTX sell signal on the Dow is going to go sideways to down for 2 weeks, print down into the grid toward the lower end of the range. That's going to give a bid in gold. Gold should rally up during that period of time, but we're also should see a bounce as we get to the lower end of the grid on the Dow. So they're just going to be inverse. So you literally could have short the Dow or buy gold. That's basically what you're doing, buying gold. And then you play the inverse of that trade, but we're likely to see it come back in for at least for a couple more days on the I'd say tomorrow we've got the big debate tonight, and then we've got an ADP tomorrow, and that's gonna keep people thinking about a lot of stuff. And then of course when we come into Friday and ultimately unemployment numbers and all that, so we got lots of gyrations, but the Dow is going to be definitely one of the main key points that we're going to want to keep an eye on. So these grids are going to help you navigate all of that. And so I'll just bring this back on screen here. Is we can go up to the DXY here and get an idea. Like I said, the numbers are out, so that's good. That means that somewhere around this time every day is when I can get these numbers out. Let me just see if I can find I want to look at the weekly numbers here. We'll just bring them up. So weekly is 93.65. I mentioned that a minute ago. So that's going to be your key trigger point to look off of. Probably be able to go long the Dow, or if you that would be also the point to flip a gold trade if you're in on that gold trade. That would be definitely a good point to flip, because what's likely to happen here is both of these markets are locked in a range, and there's, when you look at it daily, there's even an upslope or downslope right now on the Dow down and gold up, but these are not material numbers, and we still have plenty of resistance and trends above the markets right now that are on gold. There's still a downtrend in place, so we're not anywhere at a point. So that's how you set this grid up, to actually set your trade utilizing the grid, having using that map on how to set up these trades, and that you're defining your risk well. And that's one of the things I would watch really closely for. And I hate the use of stops, but anymore, some of these if this market's not having a lot of spikes in it, I wouldn't worry too much. I'd wait for a closing value. It would have to show me that it could close over that 1922 level, but I think that's going to be a pretty good trade. So I probably just did most of the analysis. I know I did. That's pretty much what you'll hear on the video tonight off of that analysis, is exactly what's happening. So let's do another question here.
Hey Bob, it's AJ. Quick question for you with respect to the gold futures versus GLD. Whenever you tend to talk about the patterns, I know the numbers are not exactly the same, but when you're talking about the patterns for the gold futures, do they relate directly with the GLD?
They're pretty tightly correlated, but that's a symbol we could add into the grid.
Okay.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
It's,
Because I was looking at some of the silver stuff, the SLV, but then the SI futures.
Yeah.
And I noticed that there was still difference in some of the patterns,
Yeah.
even though, like, I know the numbers are different, but the patterns are slightly different as well. Where one might show a little bit of a bullish signal, I guess, lean towards the bullish side of things.
Yeah. So I've talked about that. Like that same thing exists like in the E-minis and the cash markets and the S&P, right? And because of this extended trading hours, and most of these markets are trading in a better part of 23, not quite 24, but 23 hours plus, right? 22, 23 hours. So in the S&P, we see, like last night, the highs were printed last night in the futures. Okay. We never got to those numbers in the cash or anywhere near intraday today once the U.S. markets open. So that's pretty classic, and that's also classic for like even just looking at GLD here that I put on the screen versus on what we're looking at on the, what we were just looking at in gold. Now, what's interesting about GLD here is we got a 10-period moving average. Let me move this so I can get a ppm value. Minus 0.29, 178.8, and we're printing 178.4. So we're right on resistance right here, but ppms are trying to turn up. But the worst case here is like 180, printing into that medium averages. So it gets a little trickier if you're doing GLD versus the gold, but definitely I'm gonna add GLD to the grid. So that,
Appreciate it, Bob.
yeah, there's no reason why that shouldn't be there.
Not to be greedy or anything, but could you add SLV as well? If it's not
Sure,
there?
absolutely. Hell yes.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No, that's what this is for. This is about you guys. What you guys want. Like I said, I don't think I want to make the file too big. Matter of fact, yeah. So I don't want to make it too big, but it can be a lot bigger. I think we can easily see, 100, 200 symbols in the grid daily. And like I said, ultimately, I just want a database. It doesn't matter what the symbol is. You bring it up, it calculates everything right there in the software. So right now, it's being calculated through software, but then being displayed in HTML. And this was, it's like I'm trying to put some of these puzzles together. And like I said, if you have TradeStation, I get the App Store and TradeStation, then you can actually have access. Now, you're using TradingView, right? AJ? Yep.
I am, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Sam's, we'll definitely talk. So, and I'm trying to figure out how to get some of these calcs in there. It looks like we can secure them. That's the main thing. So the code. So that's a good thing. Anyone else?
Hi, Bob. It's Babak. And I have a question about how you figure the probabilities that a zone will be penetrated based on the ppms. You say 30% probability that number is going to be penetrated or go up or down.
Yeah, that's something I should put out there. We were talking last night late after I did the video of actually putting together a number of things, maybe redoing some how to use this, the grid. I spent a lot of time on it today, just how to set up trades and try to get it focused down to a 8-minute video, so at least you can get the setup. I went through a lot of time today, but yeah, so the probabilities, I do have a basic probability map, but I could put out, ppm is greater than this, what it is. There's nothing wrong with having that out there. So I'm just making a note to myself to put that out. So yeah,
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
it's not just fascinating, but it'd be great to know that too. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean that was when Bill and I did the original research back in the day. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. When we did that original research, the question we were asking, and I proposed it early on when we were talking today, if we're going to use a moving average as a trend line or a dynamic trend line, is when is it going to hold? When is it going to, when is the market going to go through it? And what's the probabilities? And that was the question we asked. And we spent a lot of time, and that's where these ppms came from, of figuring out percent changes, first and second derivatives, trying to figure out, okay, when is the heightened pattern? So that's my problem with trend lines, is they're just static, and okay, there's a trend line there, it's going to hold. Well, why? Because you think it's going to hold because you drew the line? Maybe not, and we used to have this guy come in. It was early 1980. His name was Hal. This guy was an architect. He had some of the prettiest charts I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen charts so, just amazing articulate. And he had this big chart of, I think it was the Dow Jones back then, and he had drawn all these lines. He had these fan lines and all this stuff, and it was like he comes in and he put a trade on, and then he hits himself in the head and goes, "Oh my God, I picked the wrong trend line." He had so many, it must have been 30 of them on there, and it was his inspiration that made me realize this is not a good way to go, because there's always a trend line, So, so there's, and some of these things I see out there, they're very randomly drawn, and yeah, and they tend to give you a false sense of security, or if you're shorting, like, okay, you're drawing these visual tops on a chart, where you get a trend line down, and somebody said symmetrical triangle, that's great. Okay, which way is it going to break out? Well, a lot of times these things do a head fake. They break out one way and flip. And, through the analysis that I do, I can tell when those are breaking out that we don't have the driving force or the momentum behind the markets to actually keep them going in that direction. If you're watching the channel all the time, you hear me say, like, there's not enough here to drive this market into this expansive to expand, where like last night was a good example. The futures were up 15, 16 handles on the S&P coming in to about hour and a half before London opened. They were strong all night. But what was happening when I was doing the video, it was one of the things I made the comment on, is we're not getting the momentum's not showing that it's reacting to that. So as we came into those grid numbers, we came into R1 last night, it was obvious that there was not the type of pattern or momentum or structure in the markets to get it to break through that number. And once you get a handle on these percentages and all that, the R1 number last night was also very similar to the 10-day moving average, if I recall. So here the futures back open down 425 here. So here we go with the grid tonight is right here for low 27, S1 33.18, and if you recall, if we can print down to 3300 S2, that'll fill the gap, and that'll complete this 2-day pattern I'm talking about. Yeah, so the 10-day was below it. It was more of the 21 period moving average that was right above there. If we look at yesterday, 33.63 was the 21-day moving average. R1 33.63.75. The moving average was 33.63 even, and that was the easy play. Plus, there was a negative ppm on that, so there was resistance at that level, and it ended up to be the high. So that was an easy call. That's like a pitch and catch in the end zone. That was easy, but those are so that's how these grid numbers, and it does help when you have the entire suite, the ppms, and you can start to look at what those angles of those moving averages are doing, so you can determine what their probabilities are. Last night the probability was substantial resistance. It wasn't major resistance because it was only at a point. Let's see what it was last night. Let me bring this up. Yeah, we were at, I got to go down below here to get this. Yeah, last night ppm2 was a minus 0.2, actually 0.18. No, ppm2 was a minus 0.23, so it was right at trend level down. So it was an easy short against that number. And then, like I said, we should get a couple of days off. And now what we're seeing, even here, you guys are getting a live view of this, is what's happening is ppm1 is upticking. So we've got some negative numbers. If we can hold into the grid tonight, we may not fill this gap yet. We may be able to resume this move up. So let's say 33.18. If we do get some weakness here in the next several hours, 33.18 is probably somewhere right in 3318, between 18 and 3300. It's going to be a buy in the S&P again, and you'll see it reset and then ultimately challenge the high at that 63 level that we printed last night. That was the high of the pattern, and I forget who it was now that was talking about the difference between GLD and the and gold, and the same with SLV and the silver SI. If you look here, if I go up to the INX, which is the SPY, you can see that all of a sudden the grid is actually sloping down. So we're seeing some minor projection back down toward the lows, and the average is 3312 on the is where we're probably going to print down toward, and 3306 is the gap. So I covered all this stuff in last night's video. So we'll see. Like I said, I'd like to take a break here when we get done with this show, and then I'll come back into the markets and take a look at what type of configurations, what happens. I actually suggest that for everybody. It's a really good process to not stay engaged with over the market. Take a step back, refresh, come back, try to take a fresh look at the markets and come in. And that's why some people will criticize, because yesterday I was saying the market's going to go up. Now I say it's going to go down, and it's daily commentary. So I'm playing all of the bar moves up and down day to day. And then I try to context that in with the larger moves in a weekly. So long answer, sorry. All right, we're getting a little long in the tooth. Any last desire? Like I said earlier, if you guys have a question and using the process or anything that's up there that is.
Well, I just want to say real quick on Scott's behalf that he wanted to thank you very much for covering the gold and the stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, no problem. That's what you guys pay me to do. So, yeah, okay. Well, we ended up doing a lot of time on the grid today. Hopefully it was useful, and for all of you folks watching. And if you have questions or utilizing the platform, you can email us two ways. You can go in to the platform itself, and you can click on feedback. It will bring you to this page, and you can submit a question there. We'll get it that way. You can send it to info@Kendall Report. We'll get it that way. And then ultimately, I guess you could reach out and call, but it's probably best not to go that route. We get a little clogged up, and the good news about our message, it turns it into text, so we can do all that stuff. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, so we'll work on signing off here. Last week I made a very bad mistake, and I didn't shut the stream down right, and it was playing for hours on end. So anyway, I will make sure we do that and all of that. So yeah, so that's about it.
Thanks, Bob. Catch you next time. Tomorrow, maybe. Yep.
Yeah, I'll be around. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
And thanks, Jay.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. You guys take care. Thank you.
Going to bomb you with symbols now.
All right.
Totally. Thank you.
Hey, and listen, those guys, those of you that are international, I think AJ is in Canada. If you want some of these symbols, I just have to get the right symbol. Some of these international indexes, I'm cool with that. I don't care. I put them in, but spreadsheet just works.
Nice.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bob. I'll let you know if something comes through.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to rouse everyone up to get some more likes. We got to get a few more likes in there today.
Yeah. Yeah. How about that? Just pound on that like button, guys. Yeah. And this is usually a small stream just because it is training. So it's a good to go.